Thank you for joining our webinar today. My name is Suzanne Shaw. I'm the Senior Director of Platform Marketing for mMedia, and I'm excited to help you guys start growing your business. And we actually have a ton of stuff to cover today, so I'm going to go ahead and jump right in. But there are a few housekeeping items that I wanted to cover real quickly. This webinar is being recorded and has one-way audio. If you do have a question, you can use the on-screen chat function. And we do have some time at the end for questions, and I'll try to answer as many as I can based on time. But if I'm not able to answer your question during the webinar, I can follow up with you offline. So you can use that function throughout the session. So without any further ado, let's get started. In today's webinar, you'll learn how to plan for a successful mobile advertising campaign, how to take advantage of mMedia's targeting capabilities so that you can deliver the right message to the right audience. You'll learn how to create a mobile advertising campaign using mMedia and also monitor the success of that campaign using the dashboard. And we have a checklist that's designed to help you plan a successful mobile advertising campaign, and that will really streamline the campaign setup process in mMedia. And when you complete this checklist ahead of time, you'll be able to set up your campaign literally in just a couple of minutes. And after the webinar, you'll receive an email with a link where you can download a copy of that for your own use. So planning for a successful campaign. No one plans to fail, they simply fail to plan. And this quote, or one similar to it, has been attributed to everyone from Abraham Lincoln to Frederick Douglass to Winston Churchill and many others. And whether it's people or projects, they don't succeed by accident. And you want to just take the time up front to map out your goals and detail how you're going to achieve them and identify what success looks like. How else are you going to know when you've achieved it? So when it comes to developing a mobile advertising campaign, think about what you really want to achieve, and the answer to that will help shape the details of your campaign. Now, we run a lot of mobile advertising campaigns here at mMedia, and when we look at those campaigns and talk to or survey the advertisers that ran them, the campaign goals generally fall into one of the following categories. And advertisers typically want to drive traffic to their website or app, maintain a sustained presence in the markets that they serve, increase brand awareness, generate leads for their business. Often advertisers will want to support a new product launch or a software release, or maybe they want to get people to come into their brick and mortar location. But whatever your campaign goal is, assign a numeric value and write it down, because not only will that help you remember the details a month from now when you're reviewing your campaign stats, but it'll help you determine the success of your campaign later on. And I'm sure many of you have heard this term before when it comes to developing goals, and that is to make them SMART. You want your goals to be specific and measurable, and this really goes back to how we know that we've been successful. It should be action-oriented, and think about the action that you want your customer to take when they see your ad. You want to make the goal realistic. Ask yourself, given the audience, the budget, the timing of the campaign, is the goal that I've set realistic and achievable? And lastly, make your goal time-bound. And maybe the time frame for achieving your objective coincides with your campaign dates, or maybe there's a variation based on the sales cycle for your business. So you want to figure out what the right timing is based on your own individual circumstances. So how does this work in the real world? I'm going to use a fictitious company, and this model really works regardless of the type or the size of the business. But for our example, the company is Amada Motors, and they're an engine and auto repair shop. They primarily service consumer vehicles and specialize in engine repair and bodywork. And in addition to being a full-service auto repair shop, they provide a full range of auto parts. Amada Motors has 500 retail locations in a single country, and they want to push more purchases and appointments through their mobile app. So let's see how that campaign goal fits with our methodology. Amada Motors defined the action that they want their target market to take, and that is they want to drive downloads of their app and ultimately appointments, and purchases or services. And so in this example, let's say they want to test the waters and get 50,000 people to click on their ad. That's pretty specific. It's also measurable and action-oriented, since they're asking their target market to actually do something. And next in the SMART criteria is realistic. And suppose they had a $2,500 budget for the campaign. Then yes, getting 50,000 clicks, for example, is realistic, assuming they're paying 5 cents per click. And lastly, we want to achieve these numbers within the first 15 days of our campaign. So our goal is time-bound. And I do want to touch just briefly on conversion tracking. And this will enable you to take your tracking one step further and know of those that clicked on my ad, who downloaded my app, or who redeemed my coupon. And mMedia supports our own conversion tracking technology as well as third-party conversion tracking from a number of partners. And I don't want to go into detail here due to time, but if that is something that you're interested in, there are instructions in mMedia on how to implement that, and our support team can certainly help as well. And then just going back to our goal structure, whether you're looking to drive app downloads or foot traffic, or are a service organization like Amada Motors or a product-driven company, the same methodology will work for you. So now that we've outlined the goals for our campaign, the next step in the planning process is understanding our audience. Who are our target customers? What is important for them? What do you want to communicate? And going back to our auto repair example, the target market may be people within a 20-mile radius of their retail location. Do their consumers skew based on age or gender? Maybe, maybe not. Both men and women would need a good repair shop, so in this case we may say no. And when thinking about what's important to your target market, make a list and then narrow it down. In mobile, you have a small space to convey the benefit of your product or service. So figure out the single most important aspect of your offer and build your campaign around that. And if you don't know what that one item is, it's something that you can test out in your campaign. Also be sure to have a strong call to action and make it clear in your creative and on your landing page. And this tells your customers exactly what you want them to do. Some of the most popular calls to action are click to web. And you would use this if you want to take them to your website or to a landing page to, say, complete a short form to get a coupon. Click to download. Here you would take clickers directly to your page in the App Store. Click to a map would enable you to show your retail location on a map and offer personalized directions on how to get there. And lastly, click to media. And this one's commonly used to take clickers to YouTube to provide more detailed information on the product or service that's being promoted. Whatever your call to action you choose for your campaign, just make sure that it ties back into your overall objectives and that it's measurable. So now budget and timing. And we touched on this earlier when we spoke about our campaign goals, but you do want to figure out the budget and the timing for your campaign. What is the duration of your campaign? Will you have continual coverage throughout the duration? What are your start and your end dates? And you also want to think about time from a day parting perspective. For example, if you're running a click-to-call campaign and your call center is only open Monday through Friday from 8 to 5, you may want to consider day parting so that your ad is only shown during the hours in which your call center is open and able to take incoming calls. With regards to budget, how much do you want to spend on your campaign? And there's a couple of ways to look at this too. And first you want to determine what your total budget is. So if your campaign is going to run for 30 days, how much do you want to spend over that time frame? And also think about how much you want to spend per day. Let's say, for example, I'm planning to run my campaign for 30 days and my total budget is $5,000. I can set my campaign to, quote, pace evenly, and that means that I want to spend roughly the same amount, or $166 each day for the 30 days of my campaign. Or maybe I really want to build some momentum and make sure I reach a lot of potential customers when I first launch my campaign. Then I may want to set a daily budget of, say, $300 per day, spending my budget as quickly as possible to start, and then I can adjust it downward as my campaign goes on. When it comes to budgeting in mMedia, there's no minimum budget, and of course there's no maximum either, so advertisers are free to run campaigns with budgets as large or as small as they like. However, we do recommend, and especially if you're starting out with a smaller budget, that you test with a daily spend between $250 and $500 for 5 to 7 days. So on the low end, that puts you at about $1,250, and on the upper end, it's about $3,500. And this really tends to be the sweet spot just to ensure that you get enough spread across the platform. So at this point in the planning process, you should have a pretty solid media strategy based on your objectives. And if you don't, now's the time to revisit. So just to illustrate, here's another example. Consider an online shopping boutique. They're launching a new mobile commerce app, and their objective is to support the launch and drive app downloads. Their strategy is to have a sustained media presence over a 3-month period with weekly bursts, and thus higher budgets during those timeframes. Because this is a new app, they want to implement a testing strategy to gain learnings. They also want to use those learnings to refine their messaging over time, to refine their targeting and other elements of the campaign. And implementing this strategy will give them increased awareness and drive usage of their app. So if you're planning to run a campaign to drive leads or registrations, your plan may look similar. And the key here is to just map out what your strategy is, and you want to review it and refine it as you gather learnings from your initial campaigns. Now, the last step in our campaign planning process is the creative. And you have just a few seconds to convince someone to click on your ad, so you want to make sure you have a great creative, that you clearly state the action you want the user to take and you make it easy for them to take it. And you want to articulate the benefit of taking that action. So you can think of the 3 E's when it comes to designing your mobile ad creative. It should be efficient, empowering, and engaging. So what does it mean to be efficient? Well, you don't have a lot of space, so you want to clearly communicate the benefits and action as distinctly as possible. When we define the target market for our campaign, we identify that one item that is most important for our customers, and that's what we want to focus on in our ad from a messaging standpoint, and possibly a visual standpoint. And let's say there are a few things that are of equal importance. You want to develop multiple creatives, and then use that as part of a testing strategy to see what really resonates with your target customers. Do not try to cram multiple messages into a single creative. It will just confuse your audience, and it'll also have a negative impact on your results. And efficiency also means keeping it short and simple, and really only add bells and whistles if it supports your campaign objectives. You also want to empower your audience, and this is all about giving them a clear way to interact with you. Tell them what you want them to do, and make it easy for them. So for example, in the creative, have an image of a button. It's a visual cue for them to click. And then lastly, make your ad engaging. And you want to give them a reason to click through and to ultimately take the desired action. And this goes back to knowing your audience and what will resonate with them. And also think about where you're finding the user and provide them with an experience that adds to what they're already doing. So our planning is now complete, and what I'm going to show you next is how to take advantage of the targeting capabilities in mMedia so that you can deliver your expertly crafted message to your desired target market. Considered by many to be the father of modern advertising, John Wanamaker once said, "Half the money I spend on advertising is wasted. The trouble is, I don't know which half." And you are making an investment in your business every time you run a campaign, and you want to give yourself every advantage, especially when you're getting started. So again, you want to know your audience. That's who you need to convince to take action, know who they are and what's important to them. Develop a testing strategy. And we've touched on this briefly, but this can be an invaluable tool to help you understand your audience's preferences. And digital, especially mobile, is very measurable. So, consider the characteristics of your audience and set up individual campaigns identical to one another, except for one targeting parameter, and then see which segment converts the best. Test different creative executions of your banner. You can vary the message, the colors, the logo, the call to action, And this is where you'd want to create a different execution for each key benefit that's really important to your target audience. You may also want to create custom geofences around slightly different target areas to see where your consumers are responding the most. And these are really just a few examples, but think about what you really want to learn from the early stages of your campaign, and then develop a testing strategy to support that. And then lastly, learn and refine. And don't wait till your campaign is complete to review your results. Check them frequently. Are they meeting your expectations? What have you learned from your analysis? Is one creative outperforming another? Do visitors from one site convert better than those from another? Your campaign isn't set in stone, and so based on your learnings, you can refine your campaign and keep doing this over its life cycle or as you scale the campaign. And then you can use these learnings again when you create your next flight or a new campaign. You'll, at this point, have established a baseline for your offer. So one of the cool things about mMedia is that it enables you to really create custom audiences so that your campaign will deliver to your desired market. And we'll walk through some examples, but I wanted to show you here the multitude of targeting options that are available. And I've mentioned some of these as we've gone through the campaign planning process, like targeting by geography or by demographics or using day parting, and others like targeting by a specific device or operating system or manufacturer might be used if, say, you're promoting your new app and it runs only on Apple products. You may choose to target by operating system and choose iOS, for example. As you set up your campaign in mMedia, there's a wizard that walks you through step by step. And the first targeting section that you get to is geographic targeting. And if you think about it, that's really the first step in defining your customers, is knowing where they are. And there are 4 geographic targeting options available: all countries, country-specific, region-specific, and hyperlocal. And the first, all countries, will give you access to mobile users around the world. One user may be in America, the next one in Australia, and when you're looking to grow your business globally, this is an option to consider. As an example, this option is often selected when the campaign is promoting an app or a game and the audience is truly global. Country-specific targeting is another option, and when you click on country-specific, you'll select the specific country or countries from a drop-down menu, and you can make multiple selections within the same campaign just by clicking on multiple checkboxes. And this option is often used when the campaign goal is to increase awareness or in lead gen campaigns. So for example, a credit card company may be interested in generating leads for new applicants in the US or in the UK, where it doesn't really matter which part of the country that the user resides. Region-specific is available in the United States only. So if you want to run your campaign in a certain state or metro area, you'll want to consider this option. And when you click on the region-specific targeting, you'll see a map of the United States, and you can just click on the state that you want to target and then select the metro area from the list below. And this is often used to promote regional brands or local businesses that target a wide metropolitan area. And the last option is our hyperlocal targeting feature. And this is something that really sets mMedia apart because it gives advertisers that want to reach a very targeted geographic audience total control over where that campaign is delivered. And this feature can be used to create custom geofences anywhere in the world. When you select hyperlocal, you'll see a map, and it defaults to the US, and you'll see a blank text box. The best way to get started with this feature is to type in a city or even a specific street address to get the map in the general vicinity where you want your campaign to run. And then from there, you'll have 2 options for your geofence. You can use our centroid targeting and drop a pinpoint at the center of a geographic region that you want to target, and then you can determine how far out from that point you want your ad to deliver. So for example, you can drop a point and have a 20-mile radius around the city of London. And for our friends that use kilometers as their unit of measure, do keep in mind that mMedia looks at location data in miles only. The other option when creating your geofence is to use the polygon targeting option. And here you would drop a series of pinpoints around your target area. So for example, you can type in a point of interest like Madison Square Garden in New York City, and then just drop pinpoints around the area where you want your ads to run. And polygon targeting is often used to target neighborhoods, points of interest, political districts, or other areas that don't have predefined borders. And we see hyperlocal targeting used a lot by businesses that want to reach a very local audience, whether it's a large brand targeting individual locations or a single enterprise targeting around their place of business. This feature really enables you to hone in on a customized geographic area. And another thing to point out here is that you can have multiple geofences in the same campaign. Just create each individual geofence and save it before creating your next one, and then you're all set. So once you've made your geographic targeting selections, the next step is to select any additional targeting. And here again, you have 4 options. You can target by device, by carrier, by audience, or by site performance. So device targeting is just that. Target specific devices where you want your campaign to run. It's all menu driven, and one option is to target by operating system and type. For example, I could select iOS as my operating system and smartphone as my type if I wanted to target iPhone devices. If I wanted to target iPads as well, I could just select tablet as an additional device type. And the other option here is to manually select specific devices. If I chose advanced model selection from the drop-down menu, I could get as granular as targeting my campaign to run only on Motorola Droid devices. I could manually select the Droid, Droid 2, Droid 3, etc., until all of the devices, until I have all of the devices on which I want my campaign to run. Moving on to carrier targeting, that enables you to target your campaign to deliver only on select carriers. This is tied to the geo-targeting selection, so based on what you chose there, only the carriers in that geographic region will populate. So for example, if you selected country-specific targeting United States, only wireless carriers operating in the US will populate. And then from this option, you can also choose to run on the carrier's mobile networks, Wi-Fi networks, or both. I did want to point out the tips here on the slide, and while there may be some very straightforward reasons why you want to target by device, say your app is only available on Android devices, we found that many mMedia clients are using the targeting options as a proxy for something else. As an example, let's say your target market is early adopters or technology enthusiasts. You may want to deliver your ad only to the most recently released devices, since these consumers have already shown a propensity for early adoption. Another example that we're seeing is carrier targeting being used as a proxy for income. Premium carriers tend to skew toward a higher income demographic, while carriers that do not require a contract tend to skew toward a lower income demographic. And similarly, we've seen tablet devices being used as a proxy for income. According to ComScore data, tablet owners tend to have a household income of $100,000 or more. So when advertisers are looking to reach consumers with income levels in that range, device targeting will sometimes be used as a proxy. Moving on to audience targeting, this feature lets you target ad delivery by age and or gender. Pretty straightforward. I did want to point out that occasionally we will see campaigns come through with audience targeting where, for example, both male and female are selected. And the best option when you want your campaign to deliver to all segments of a target group is to leave that option open. So if you want your campaign to deliver to both males and females, do not select audience targeting by gender. Just leave it open. And this will increase your delivery opportunities, since that's just another data point that needs validating before delivering your ad. And this principle really applies to all of the targeting options. So unless it's really important to the success of your campaign and you know your audience, it's generally best to leave the targeting open to maximize the number of impressions. And the last option here enables you to target specific sites or apps that you want your campaign to run on. And this option gives advertisers total control over where their ad appears and provides an easy way for advertisers that want to self-optimize to do so. Just for clarity, mMedia already optimizes your campaigns based on performance. We will automatically deliver more traffic towards the sites and apps that deliver more clicks or conversions. However, we found that many mMedia users want to take a more hands-on approach. So if you choose to self-optimize your campaigns, you can do this in one of two ways. You can create a whitelist so that your campaign will run only on select sites, or you can create a blacklist, which will block your campaign from running on select sites. And you would choose the specific sites to target based on an ID number, not the specific app or website name. And since this is a more advanced targeting option, I'm not going to go into more detail here, but just know that this is available. More information can be found in our Resource Center if that's something that you want to pursue. And while technically not part of the mMedia targeting suite, I did want to point out a couple of options when it comes to managing your campaign creative. If you have a mobile banner already created, you can upload it to the Creative Gallery, and when doing this directly from the campaign setup process, it will attach that creative to your campaign, and we'll save the creative in the gallery for later use. You can also bulk upload creatives directly to the gallery by selecting the Creative tab in mMedia. And if you do not have a mobile banner, you can create one in just a few minutes using our Creative Builder. You can select a theme, which is banner color. You can customize your text, add an icon, and select the size for your banner. And I did want to point out that you want to have banners in the appropriate sizes based on the devices you're targeting. So if you're targeting feature phones or iPads, the ad sizes are very different, and you want to make sure that you have the appropriate creative for each device for a better consumer experience. And we have a complete list of ad sizes and the devices that they support in our Resource Center. So now we're going to do a quick demo of mMedia and walk through the campaign creation process. But before we do that, we're going to follow our own advice and plan our campaign. So here's our completed Getting Started checklist. And we're going to need to have a name of our campaign, and for our purposes, it is mMedia Demo 3. The goal is to drive registrations to mMedia. It's going to run from June 25th to July 3rd. Yes, I realize June 25th is past, but you're going to see why in just a moment. Our budget here is $1,000, and I'm okay with an even spread across the month. I want to pay on a per-click basis. And at this time, more so for illustrative purposes, we're not going to implement conversion tracking. Based on my audience, I've outlined my targeting selections. I have the creatives for this campaign that incorporate best practices, and I've already reviewed them to make sure that they're compliant with mMedia terms and conditions. And that actually touches on something I haven't mentioned yet. You want to make sure that before you submit your campaign that it is compliant with mMedia terms and conditions. And these can be found in the Resource Center. You also want to make sure that your destination URL is up and running. And before going live, all campaigns submitted via mMedia are reviewed and approved by our support team, and the turnaround time is generally less than 4 hours during the business day. Could be a little longer on the evening or on weekends or holidays, so you just want to make sure you build that time frame into your approvals, for approvals when you plan out your campaign. So now, the moment we've been waiting for. We have a brief video demo of mMedia. It's actually a 2-minute video. It's recorded by Lynn, who's one of our mMedia product specialists. And in that 2 minutes, we're going to set up our mMedia campaign from start to finish. So give us just a second here, and we will roll the video.
The goal of our campaign is to drive users to our mMedia site to sign up for an account. After clicking on the New Campaign button, we'll choose a name for our campaign and pick a category from the drop-down menu that best describes what it is that we're advertising. We'll fill out the total budget for our campaign and leave the default option at no daily budget, meaning that our campaign will attempt to pace smoothly over the duration it's running. We're going to run a CPC campaign. Finally, we'll choose start and end dates for our campaign. On the next page, we'll select the geo-targeting for our campaign. We're choosing to run our campaign in the US, UK, and Canada. On the next page, we have several targeting options. We're going to narrow our device targeting by selecting the operating systems and type option from the drop-down menu, and then select Android and iOS. We're interested in running on all device types, so we're not going to choose any specific device types from the list. On the next page, we'll select creatives to attach to our campaign. After clicking on the Add Creative button, we'll choose the Select Creatives tab in order to choose creatives to upload from our creative gallery. Once we've decided which creatives to upload, we'll simply attach them to our campaign. On the last page of campaign setup, we'll review each of the targeting parameters we've set and make any changes if necessary. At the bottom of this page, we'll review the delivery probability for the campaign and set our bid price accordingly. Then we'll submit the campaign for approval. We can now see that our campaign is in pending status to be reviewed by the Millennial Media team. Once our campaign has been approved, its status will change to running.
Okay, so see how easy that was in just a few minutes? Literally, you can set up a mobile advertising campaign in mMedia. And we are seeing a wide variety of businesses find success with Millennial Media. So whether you're new to mobile or a seasoned advertiser, whether you are primarily an online company or have a brick and mortar location, the steps for planning a successful campaign are all the same. So speaking of success, that transitions right into our next section, which is monitoring the success of our campaign. As we talked about during the planning process, you want to have defined success so you know when you've achieved it. The Getting Started checklist has a couple of reminders for monitoring your campaign as well. Now, especially in the beginning, look at your campaign metrics every day. Is the campaign on pace to meet your objectives? What does your trend line look like? Do you need to make any changes to your campaign to enhance performance? That said, give the campaign enough time to produce results before making a change or evaluating one that you've made. Your campaign needs to have a few days to find its groove, and so generally you want to test for about 5 to 7 days with at least a daily budget of $250. And if you do want to make changes to your campaign, we recommend waiting at least 3 days or until you've hit $1,000 in spend. And there are two sections where you can view campaign results, the dashboard and campaign metrics. When you first sign into mMedia, the default screen is your dashboard. And here you'll see a snapshot of your campaigns, including their key metrics. You can also drill down into more detail or extend the view. The current default is 7 days. But if you want more detail, check out the Campaign Metrics tab. And here you can create side-by-side comparisons of multiple metrics. And as your campaigns start running, you want to spend some time in these sections, and that's really the best way to figure out the data that's most important to you. And the key here is to understand the data and the metrics, and while you may not want to edit your campaign, you also don't want to take a set it and forget it approach. Make sure your campaign is meeting your expectations, and sometimes just a small change can yield big results. And if you have any questions about your campaign, about reporting, about the things you can do to enhance your campaign's performance, our team is here to help. So now it's time for Q&A, and we can see what we have. So we have a couple of questions that have come in. And so one is, you've mentioned a campaign approval process. Can you elaborate on what's involved and what happens if my campaign gets denied? Yes. The campaign approval process really looks at your campaign through the eyes of a consumer. And we want to make sure that they have a positive experience, and so we're looking for a handful of things. And that includes the content in the ad and on the destination landing page. Is it both the text and the images? Is it appropriate? So for example, we don't allow content that's pornographic or that contains profane language. So if a campaign is submitted with inappropriate content, it'll be denied. We also check to make sure that the landing page is free of viruses, that it contains its own terms and conditions, its own privacy policy. If there are trademarked images or logos or brands called out in the campaign, that the advertiser has the right to use them. And so we may require the advertiser submit additional details on these types of campaigns. But it's basically these types of things that we look for. There is a complete checklist in our resource center. So, and also, should your campaign get denied, you will be notified, and then you can just update your campaign to bring it into compliance and resubmit it for approval. And if for any reason you feel that the campaign was incorrectly denied, you can submit a support ticket to have it reevaluated. And ultimately, our goal is to approve your campaign and get you up and running, because that's how we're making money here too. Another question is, you talked about paying per click in your examples. Do you offer any other pricing models? And yes, we do. We offer cost per click, or CPC pricing, as well as CPM pricing, where you're paying for impressions. And I don't think I mentioned this before, but when it comes to funding your campaigns, obviously you need to have money in your account before it goes live. And you can add funds via the quote funds tab in mMedia, and you can just transfer funds from your PayPal account. Are there other questions? We're just checking to see if there were any additional questions. We're just still going through. I think we might have covered them. We good? We good. Okay. We think there was some duplicate, I think, questions that have come through. So if we haven't answered your question here, or if I haven't answered your question here, please reach out to us and we can connect offline to go through some specifics that you have. So just to recap what we've covered. So in our webinar today, we've learned how to plan for a successful mobile advertising campaign, how to take advantage of mMedia's targeting capabilities, how to create a mobile advertising campaign in mMedia, and how to monitor our success using the mMedia dashboard. So as I mentioned earlier, within the next day or two, you'll receive an email with a link that you can download a copy of the planning checklist, along with the slides from today's presentation and a recording of the webinar, so stay tuned for that. And I just want to thank everyone for joining the call today, for submitting your questions. We are here to help in any way that we can. Visit our resource center for more information on our capabilities. We have a handful of videos out there as well. And of course, please reach out to us at any time with questions. Our email is support@mmedia.com. That goes right into our support team. So thanks again, and enjoy the rest of your day.
The leader has disconnected. The conference will be terminated in 5 minutes.